I have to read what I have to say to you because I tend to ramble a little bit. So here's my words to you. I don't know the right words to sum up my lifetime with you. This all came so fast, and I've been frantically reaching out to get memories from others because doing my own would make this too real. And here it is, my reality, my simple minutes, my montage of my mother. My earliest memory happened before I even came to this world, and choosing you as my mother, choosing my life, my struggles. I was a tiny, malleable little soul that you molded into your, I was a tiny, malleable little soul that you molded in your own simple minutes with me. You sacrificed so much to keep our family together, although it broke you more every day. I saw that, and I didn't understand it then. Times when a boy would break my heart, and I would shut myself in my room, and you would come in and hug me and not say a single word, simply let my tears soak. Simply let my tears soak. Simply let my tears soak you in your loving embrace. Boy, you love to shop. I remember going to Goldie's and this other little shop that was across from Rexall. I don't remember the name of it. They had a gray floor that was flecked with opaque little splotches. I don't know that because I spent a lot of time on that floor while you shopped. And it was uneven. It had this little, I don't know, little unevenness, a little ramp that I like to play with the toys. And I remember they had this Fisher-Price top. It was pretty big for me when I was little, and I could never quite get that thing to spin. And I don't know, but I think about that, and I think as a mother that must have really been a saving grace for you because it kept me busy while you took me along at times that should have been your own time. Remember the small birthday party that you planned for me when we lived at 535? I must have been 5 or 6, and suddenly I made friends with every kid in the neighborhood and invited them to my party. And I had this tiny little cake that you'd made for this small affair that was initially to be in. Ironically, the shirt that I wore that day had a cartoon on the front, and it said, "Mama said there'd be days like this." Yeah, irony. And speaking of shopping, you remember acid wash jeans? Well, I think we'd all rather forget. You can never have too much acid wash, as I used to think, and we would go to Esther's in Ukiah, wanting to see what was new that week. And but you always worried that they would ask you to model for whatever fashion show they had coming up after that one time that you had your hair done, and they had mirrors and flowers and baby's breath and animals and airplanes. I don't know, everything just tied to your hair, and it was just. I remember you had to sleep with your head off a pillow and you had a migraine. Anyway, I loved how they never failed to ask you to be a part of it, and it made you so uncomfortable. You never saw yourself as beautifully as everybody else has, as everybody else does. You welcomed my friends into our home and treated them like the sisters I never had. Talked to us, laughed with us. You'd take me out of school so we could have days together in Santa Rosa or staying at home, eating junk food and watching movies. Junk food. Going through a McDonald's drive-thru, ordering a dessert for every single friend that we could possibly name, and eating it all to ourselves. Anyway, San Francisco. Sometime in 92 or 93, we were going to the zoo to see that albino alligator, and I made the mistake of letting you drive in the city. Yeah, you do your best work, we all know, on driving all around those roundabouts, those circles that, you're going to drive, and they're clearly labeled, so they're perfect for you because you're so good at driving in circles. But you and I both know that the Lord was looking out for pedestrians that day. Yeah, you know it. Admit it. Um, yeah. And the day I left for college, remember Norman took my bed to Sacramento and I followed him. It was the last of the things in my bedroom, and how hard you tried to fight back your tears to let me go and not make it difficult for me. You always did your best to let my emotions be my own and not a reflection of yours. Hawaii, 1997, Sheridan Princess Kailani, dinner at the pool. Some random guys bought us Mai Tais, and boy, those were strong. And so we decided we were going to take a walk down Ala Moana Boulevard and head toward the International Marketplace. And that was where we ate the exact same thing every day for 10 days. We ate the same thing. It was good enough for us. And we decided, I remember, we'd walked far enough down the street, so let's turn around and go back. And then when we got back to the hotel, some guy came up to us and said, "Are you looking for me?" And I said, "No, we just wanted to go to our room." He said, "No, I thought you were looking for me." "No, no." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'm sure." And so you and I start heading up to the room, and I remember, what the heck was he talking about? And he said, "Are you blind?" That was a pickup line. That was a pretty bad one. See, you're able to see stuff like that in other people, but not in yourself. And man, all the times I covered your butt because some guy in the grocery store was looking at it, and I didn't want him looking at my mom's butt because that was my mom's butt. Okay, that's just sick. Anyway, the same trip. Remember I started my period the day after we got there? The day after we got to Hawaii on vacation. That was cool, and I had to pee really bad because we just got back from Auntie's house. And here we go with the circles again. You circled the block about 45 minutes and missed the garage entrance about 20 times. And I was a peed off mess and managed to pee a little bit every time you missed it. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget that. Or the first Thanksgiving with Andres, who hadn't had a Thanksgiving meal in probably over a decade, and he managed to eat probably about 10 pounds of food overnight, so we had no leftovers the next day. And he was doped up on tryptophan, and I remember just all of us looking at him sleeping in our mouths that yearned for the sandwiches, and you were so gracious and so freaking surprised at his superhuman power. And then remember, he got really full and I punched him in the stomach. Yeah. And my wedding, Andres didn't have a mother, and you really embraced your ability to be one for him. And while I danced with Dad, you danced with Andres. That really warmed my heart. Peyton, Eden, Aya Rose, and Everett, all their births, you were everything I needed without saying a word. When we had Eden, you were on cloud 9 about finally becoming a tutu after 36 hours of labor and finally delivering her, and you stood next to me when I was in my bed, and you were, I don't know, somewhere around my shoulder, and somehow I hemorrhaged and just stuff came flying out of me and got on you. I don't know, some law of physics covered you in my junk. And Andres, I mean, the smile, you had a smile on your face, and it, I gooed all over you, and the smile never left your face. And Andres said, "Sandy, you're covered in blood." And you said, "I don't care." And he said, "No, really, you look like you're out of a scene from Carrie." And then you went to the bathroom and you wiped off with something dry because you came out with all these smudges and you look like some sort of primitive native with war paint on your face. And you were wearing designer jeans and a really nice blouse with my blood all over you. And Eden was in the NICU after that, and it was time to feed her. And you, being so wonderful with directions and your sense of direction, offered to wheel me to feed her. And they said, go through those doors and make a right. And then when you get there, go down the hall and make a left, whatever. And so they said, you can't miss it. Yeah, they don't know you. So those halls were not circles, the ones that you prefer to drive in. They were halls that ended in doors that opened up into a room with 4 doors. And you said, do you think they mean to turn left here? And which left? So then you turned my wheelchair, which made all the directions change. And I said, I knew it. I knew you'd get us lost. You're probably taking us straight to the psych ward where we belong. And you laughed and laughed and laughed, and you couldn't stop laughing. And for some reason, while you laughed, you kept turning my chair around, and every door looked the same. And you were like, well, which door do we come in? Which one's left? Which one's right? And I was just busting up, and so were you. And then you peed your pants. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And and then you wore my maternity clothes home because you wet all yours. And when we came home to our tiny apartment, it was clean. Our cupboards were stocked with food and cleaning supplies, and it was adorned with flowers and plants and candy dishes, and filled from top to bottom with love. Your heart is and has always been amazing. Aya Rose came less than 2 years later. I called you to let you know that I was in labor, and we didn't find out ahead of time if we were having a boy or a girl. So the birth would be different and much more exciting. And you said you would pack your bag and head down. And I called you, I don't know, around 3. And I delivered her at 5:48. And that was apparently the same exact time that you were leaving town. And I remember laying in my bed. And then you burst through the doors like, I don't know, you're going to deliver the baby or something. And you just looked at us like, what's going on? Why are you guys all relaxed? And I said they took the baby to give her a bath. You said, oh, it's a her. You were so elated and you couldn't wait to meet her. And coming to Willits one day with Andress and the girls, we went to a Mexican restaurant across from the country mall, the one you and Kurt really like. And Andress pulled an ultrasound picture out and handed it to you, and you jumped out of your seat and squeezed him so hard. Oh, yay, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Another grandbaby. You're so excited, and you were as excited as we are. And that pregnancy got difficult towards the end, and Andress was out of town, and you and Kurt came down to take care of me so that I could stay in bed and keep that baby in for as long as I could. And that wasn't the case. You and Kurt fell asleep in the living room, and I remember waking up and going into the kitchen and Kurt to get some water, and Kurt was there, and he asked if I was okay, and I said, no, I'm in labor. And it was like you weren't asleep at all, but I swear I heard you snoring or something, and you just jumped up and you got me to UC Davis in 6 minutes, and you didn't even go in circles. Yeah. You could have been a race car driver, I thought, because they're really good at driving in circles. Yeah. And Kurt stayed home with the girls in case it was a false alarm. And it wasn't, so he brought them, and you stayed by my side. And I was scared and, a little down because Andress wasn't going to be there for the birth of his son. You were perfect. And poor Aya Rose was so afraid of my pain. And you sacrificed seeing your grandson born so you could comfort your granddaughter that needed you. And bless you for that. Weekends sitting around doing nothing, watching HGTV and eating tutu popcorn. I loved those times. Weekends I would leave town to work with Andress for a weekend and come back to my normally poorly kept yard because we don't have your green thumb. and suddenly it would be all manicured and weeded and beautiful and blooming, and hearing stories of how much fun the kids had with you, little fairy princesses, and you've always you've always so seemingly effortlessly made their childhood magical, from costumes to just because parties, and doing crafts with them. Just your time with them has always been quality time. You always made sure of that. And one day in their lives, that will come full circle. And the stories that they will have to tell will bring warmth to their hearts and hopefully guide them when they're grandparents to be wonderful like you. And dancing with you, Mom. Dancing with you beside me was truly some of the happiest times my heart has ever known. Our awkward practices and being unsure of ourselves, but always having a good time and pulling each other's hair buns and or smacking butts or a big hip boom across the room. Yeah, it was mostly me. Whatever. It was fun, and you were totally asking, for it, standing right there, aiming it all at me. You know how I roll. Including that time you aimed your butt at me and I stuck a Cutco knife in your butt cheek. I'm really sorry about that. Sorry. Difficulties aside, the strained circumstances of the recent times aside, I choose to remember you for your heart, the one that loves wholly and gives without being asked and serves those in need, often anonymously. Your heart for animals. Yeah, I got that from you too. I hope the things that I take from you are things that will make you proud as I continue on this life and do my best to do right by the sacrifices and investments that you made in me from the day I was born. I'm not looking forward to the time clock that begins the day that you go to be with Heavenly Father, but I know you will be back where you belong in the loving arms of our Creator and reunited with your own daddy and loved ones. I'll never be ready for a life without you, but like the day I left for college, my emotions will be mine, not a reflection of your need to be here for me. Clearly, God has decided it is time for you to be with Him. When your work here is done, your legacy will remain in the stories and traditions and flavors from our family. You will never be forgotten. I'm blessed. I love you with all that I am. Thank you for being my mommy. Thank you for being Tutu.